Welcome to Bad Elizabeth. I'm your host, Gideon Evans.
And I'm your host, Kathy Egan-Taylor. The premise of the show is exactly what it sounds like. Each episode, we profile a different Elizabeth, or derivation of the name.
Like Lizbeth,
Isabel,
or Betty,
who deserves to be called bad.
Some of these Elizabeths are not half bad, and some are doubly bad.
Double mint bad.
That's our producer and engineer, Will Beckton of Jet Road Studios.
Hi, guys.
Our episode today is about Betty Wilson.
This story should be a Coen Brothers movie.
Or an episode of Bad Elizabeth.
That'll work.
Hey, welcome to Bad Elizabeth. I'm Gideon Evans.
And I am Kathy Egan-Taylor.
And we are your tour guides to all things Notorious Elizabeths.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else has that title.
No, if that's on my epitaph, I'm fine with it.
Okay, I'll make sure it is.
We'll save that for way down the road, I hope. But I'm so happy to be at Jet Road Studios. It's such a nice neighborhood here, and the studio's great, and Will and Amber are so great.
Yes,
And
lovely.
so we're happy to be doing more of these.
And you also came out here from Brooklyn, and you
Right.
visited my favorite place.
Yeah, well, every time I come out here, we always talk about Zankow chicken. You bring it up, and you're like, you have to try Zankow chicken.
It was funny because I remember coming out here years ago, and I was staying somewhere like in Sherman Oaks in the middle of nowhere, like a Holiday Inn. And a friend of mine who lives out here forever, she was like, oh, you're near a Zankow chicken. And I was like, what is that? And then I found out what it was.
It's up there with like In-N-Out.
In-N-Out, exactly.
Yeah, it's like a LA staple.
And it's Armenian, right?
It's Armenian.
And there's a huge Armenian population in
It's apparently
in LA.
the biggest Armenian population outside of Armenia.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you have like an Armenian lawyer and an Armenian
All my doctors are Armenians. My allergist, Dr. Peter Parker,
Right.
is Armenian.
Also known as Spider-Man.
But anyway, Zankow chicken is famous for not only their chicken, their shish kebabs. It's Lebanese,
And
Armenian.
it's kind of a chain,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and there is a murder involved there.
It's not our episode today.
No, it's not our episode. Well, basically,
No Elizabeths involved.
I don't think so. I didn't look into that. But basically, it's a family-owned restaurant. It got very successful.
Yeah.
They were growing, financial disputes with the family. The son killed both his mother and his sister,
Oh, no.
murdered them, and himself.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's so terrible.
Yes, in the valley somewhere.
Wow. And it was...
It was a financial dispute. It was
Oh, that's
growing so
really
much.
sad.
But anyway, so people always talk about the Zankow chicken murders.
But is
Wow.
Zankow the name of the family?
I think it is.
But I thought all Armenians have the IAN. That's like Jack Kevorkian
Yes,
and
exactly.
Eric Bogosian. So it's like Lebanese.
It's interesting because like a lot of the restaurants around me are Armenian/Lebanese. It's the same cuisine.
I see. But I have to say it was delicious. I got the half chicken, and sometimes white meat can be very like dry. But it was
No, it's
very
good.
lovely and tender
And
and
did you
moist.
get the garlic sauce?
You told me to get the garlic sauce, and it was delicious. They gave me 2 of them. It was weird because the consistency almost looks like butter, but it doesn't taste like. Is it like kind of like clotted yogurt or something?
It probably is.
Oh my God, it's delicious.
The garlic sauce, I mean, that's the star, I think, right?
No, exactly. That's whenever you order it out, or if you're like, extra garlic sauce, please.
And I got the tabbouleh, which was really good. The ratio of bulgur wheat to parsley and tomatoes was perfect. Not too much bulgur wheat, mostly veggies. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very lemony and yummy.
And when you go there, everyone, as soon as the food comes, everyone's excited.
And this isn't an ad. We're not just saying it because they're like handing us money, although it could be.
I would love that.
I mean, if Zankow is listening.
Yeah. This would be a baked-in ad, too, which
Yeah.
I think is, beneficial.
But let's get into our episode,
Yes.
our Elizabeth du jour.
Du jour.
And she wasn't born Elizabeth per se. She was born Betty,
She
right?
was born Betty, yes. Betty Wood Wilson. She's been married 3 times.
So Wood is like
I think Wood is her maiden name.
I see. And Betty was on her birth certificate. But,
Yes.
But we're okay with that because
It's a derivation of
Lizzie Borden also had Lizzie on her birth certificate. She wasn't born Elizabeth, and Lizzie wasn't a nickname. But this is like, we're making up the rules. We're the hosts. I'm sorry, people.
I hope no one's angry about this. If they're angry, I'd be curious.
Well, just write us a comment.
Exactly. So this is a story of Betty Wilson, and she is a twin. And here is another thing. She has a twin sister, Peggy, which is a nickname for Margaret, which is strange to
Oh.
me.
That's untraceable.
But so anyway, so they're twin sisters. We don't know if they're identical or fraternal. It's an odd thing that I couldn't figure out, but through all the research, they do look a lot alike.
Yeah, in some places they say they're fraternal, and some places
They
say
say
they're
they're
identical.
identical.
So someone isn't doing their research.
Well, also, a lot of the stuff, this happened in 1992. It was the heyday of like Entertainment Tonight, and they would be on the cover of People magazine. The People weren't really doing a lot of hard-nosed journalism then. It was sensational. So
Hard copy, I remember, was
Exactly.
like hard to get away from then.
it was very sort of loosey-goosey as far
It's
as
slicker
facts.
now. So I did look it up, and I looked up the difference between fraternal and identical. Fraternal is when there are two eggs.
Yes.
And essentially, you're not really have like very similar DNA. You just happen to be born at the same time. But identical is one egg, and
Yeah.
it splits, and you're literally
A copy.
pretty close. I guess it's not completely identical, but it is very,
Old
very
Xerox
close.
machine.
I always wonder what that's like, what it's like to be a twin. I mean, I'm 18 months apart from all my siblings, so
I went to this drama day camp, and there were these two guys that were twins, and we did meditation. We closed our eyes, and apparently someone opened their eyes during the meditation, and they noticed these twins were moving their bodies the same exact way. It was like literally, it was kind of wild. And there's that whole thing where if like one twin gets punched or has an
They feel it,
illness,
yeah.
the other one might be living across the country but knows
They feel it,
something's
yeah.
going on.
So let's get into the Betty Wilson story. So
Yeah.
So this is the story of Betty Wilson, and she has a fraternal twin sister, Peggy Lowe. And this is the story of Betty's husband, Jack Wilson, who was murdered.
And he was a doctor, an optometrist?
Ophthalmologist,
Ophthalmologist,
actually.
there's a difference.
There is a difference. The ophthalmologist is like the real eye doctor, so to speak.
The one that doesn't just help you with glasses.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like he has a very big practice.
The murder happened in the 90s, right?
1992.
And this is right before we met each other. Not that it really matters.
Exactly. But this would have been in the headlines. So it's a bit outlandish, and it kind of feels like a Coen Brothers story because everyone in it is ridiculous, quite frankly. And there was a TV movie that came out in 1994 called Separated by Murder, starring Sharon Gless of Cagney Lacey fame.
Oh, yes.
Did the TV movie influence how the sisters were thought of?
Oh, yeah. It basically, Peggy, prim and proper minister's wife, Betty, swinger, drinker, party town girl, lots of money. Yeah, those two sort of archetypes, if you can call them that. That's what the movie pushed.
And later on, we'll have Sharon Gless as our very special guest.
Yes. Here's the crime. On May 22nd, 1992, 46-year-old Betty Wilson came home. She was attending an AA meeting.
Mhm.
She came home to find her husband bludgeoned to death on the upstairs
Like
landing.
a landing. Yeah.
Yes. He was lying in a pool of blood. This is in Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh.
And Betty Wilson, she's married to a doctor, an ophthalmologist, Jack
Mhm.
Wilson. He's very successful. She met him when she worked at a hospital. She was a nurse.
And they both had been married before,
They
right?
both had been married and divorced, but both amiable divorces.
Yes.
And they both had 3 children from each marriage. But I believe at this point their children were older. Teenagers are out of the house. So anyway, apparently it was like love at first sight, and he called her brown eyes.
Oh.
They loved each other. So she comes home, finds him on the floor. Next to him is a baseball bat
Mm-hmm.
that's bloodied, presumably the murder weapon.
Right. It's an aluminum bat,
Exactly.
I think. Eason.
And apparently, that same bat, when Jack came home from work that day, he was hammering a political campaign sign into his lawn with
So
it
he had the bat.
in his hand when he entered his house.
So whoever killed him, if it was the bat or not, it's not like the murderer
Brought
came
it.
with the
Yes.
bat.
They used it as a weapon, apparently. So Betty had come home. She had been she went to her AA meeting, and she went to the mall just before that because they were
Mhm.
going to go away to New Mexico, to Albuquerque for
The
a trip.
next day or something.
So she had been out shopping, preparing for this trip, and she comes home and finds her husband dead. So she runs across the street to call 911.
And did we mention that he's like in a puddle of blood?
He's in a puddle of blood, and the weird thing is, and this is also sort of a barbaric crime scene, if you can imagine,
Yeah.
somebody be bludgeoned to death, but also people didn't really pay attention to details and stuff. Like they kind of saw it for what it was, and they made assumptions. Like it's not like they would do today.
Like a baseball bat causing a bunch of blood doesn't...
Yes, and there was no splatter on the walls. You know what I mean?
I think there might have been a tiny bit.
Not enough to. If you bludgeon someone with a baseball bat, you're going to have splatter that goes above your head.
Not only when you hit them with the bat, and not to get too graphic, but even in your backswing, if there's blood on the bat, that blood
it's going to fly up into the walls and
go
ceiling.
on the ceiling and the walls. So
Yes.
This was relatively contained.
It was relatively contained and clean, which is suspicious for a baseball bat murder versus a gun or a knife.
And also they have that term defensive wounds where like you're putting your hand up to try to stop it.
Yeah, well, Jack actually had 2 broken arms.
Right.
So Betty comes home and sees this. She runs next door to the neighbors and calls 911. There's actually a Forensic Files episode. You can actually hear the phone call. She's frantic and,
It's
out of breath.
convincing.
It's very convincing.
Yeah.
There's also stab wounds to his body, in his abdomen, and also there's a fishhook-like laceration on his shoulder that later people say, oh, that must have come from a fireplace poker, which was not on the scene.
Yeah,
So
nobody found anything else
nothing
right
was
there.
found at the scene except for the baseball bat. So this is the crime scene. So let me give you a little background on Betty. So she was born July 14th, 1945, in Gadsden, Alabama, which is about an hour and a half south of Huntsville. And she was the youngest of 4 daughters, and she had a twin sister, Peggy. Their father was a cop, but he also was a drunk, so not very reliable. And mom worked in factories. They were lower middle class. That sort of put the seed in Betty's brain, like, I'm going to do better.
Mhm.
People who went to high school with them in school with Betty and Peggy, the twin sisters, said they were alike, but they were very different. They both were very pretty women. If you look at the photos from them from 1992, they could have been on Designing Women. Like big hair, big shoulder pads.
Right.
This is the time of Dynasty, Falcon, all those shows are on.
Like Murphy Brown.
Murphy Brown wore big shoulder pads, big hair, lots of makeup.
And was Peggy kind of like the higher achiever in school or kind of was more well thought of?
She was well thought of. She was homecoming queen 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And she also won local beauty pageants.
Is that weird if you're twins and you're so similar and then one is kind of like doing well in high school? Like,
It would be weird if you were identical twins and one was considered the Schwarzenegger and one was considered the DeVito.
They seemed to get along, the two of
Yeah.
them. They had different routes, but they always got along. And so they both got married young. Betty got married to her high school sweetheart. And then in 1969, divorced him. They both acknowledged we were too young, whatever. So Betty, she moved into a singles complex in Huntsville called Imperial Gardens, where everyone was single, everybody knew each other, and everyone partied every night.
that's so funny.
Well, 70s was the rise of like divorces. One day at a time, Alice, they were all divorcees trying to
Right.
make it and raise kids. So it's an interesting time, but she loved it. She worked at JCPenney's and then she worked at a health club and then she got a job working at a hospital as a secretary. And then being there, she decided to go to nursing school. So she put herself through nursing school. And actually, once she met him,
And we're talking now about Jack Wilson.
yes,
Where was he
he
from?
was originally from Chicago. Everyone said really charismatic, likable guy. He did his med school in Tennessee and then ended up having his first residency in Huntsville.
And Huntsville is a pretty big city, I would think, right?
I don't know. I mean,
It's- well, you're from the South.
Yeah, I'm
You're
from
from Atlanta.
Atlanta, and it's not one of the first ones to come up. It's like Montgomery, Birmingham, and
Yeah,
Huntsville's
Huntsville's-
might be a
Right.
distant third.
I had a roommate from Alabama, but I think he was from Birmingham. The one thing I heard about Huntsville, or that I read about it, was that's where some of the space programs started. And I know we knew someone from Alabama that used to talk about it. And the person, this is a tiny bit of a tangent, the person that established some of that space program, I think his name was like Werner von Braun. I think Tom Lehrer, this is such a tangent, did a parody song about him. I hope that was his name. Anyway, it turned out he was a Nazi in the past, and that got revealed. So it's a whole other podcast. I'm sorry.
This wins the tangent
You
award
can
for
edit
sure.
this out.
This is the cold open.
The space program was the main point.
Well, I've been to Tuscaloosa, where we'll learn later on that that's where Betty's trial had to be held because it couldn't be held in
She
Huntsville.
couldn't get a fair trial.
She couldn't get a fair trial. But I went to Tuscaloosa because there was an incident at a Waffle House.
Ooh,
Oh,
There's always an
Will,
incident at the Waffle House.
I know, but are they
Yeah.
the best places
I
ever?
love Waffle House. And I love that they have a jukebox.
they have a whole language associated
They
with
got
it.
the grits. They got it all.
Scattered, covered, smothered.
Smothered, yes,
chunk.
exactly. And also, it's like kind of a theater in the round there, so you can watch the cook prepare your food. So it's always good.
Chef's table.
So anyway, so Jack is originally from Chicago. They meet at this hospital. She ends up becoming a dialysis nurse.
Okay.
So
Ooh.
she's a bright woman. They end up falling in love. And Jack was very smart, very talented.
So were they kind of like an active social couple?
They were
like,
an active social couple, and this is when Betty turned to drinking. She stopped working because she didn't need to. They lived in a very fancy area of Huntsville. They nicknamed it Pill Hill because that's where all the doctors worked. So she had social anxiety because she came from lower middle class. Her father was a cop. He was, a drunk, whatever. So she drank when she'd go to parties and stuff like that. And Jack learns that he has Crohn's disease.
Right. That's like an intestinal thing.
It's an intestinal. He had it very, very badly. To the fact that he had to get an operation that gave him a permanent colostomy bag.
Ugh. How come they call it an ostomy bag?
It's colostomy and ostomy.
It's just a different word.
I looked it up. It's the same thing.
Pretty much.
Basically, it collects urine and stool.
Yeah.
I know someone who had one. It's not pretty business.
No.
So anyway, he has this problem. She's like, we're going to get married and I'm going to take care of you. So there was love there. There was absolute love there.
Sounded like they had a real relationship.
But they didn't have a sexual one.
Well, I mean, maybe they did early on, but yeah, she talked smack.
Well, she referred to his colostomy bag as his shit bag, and later she also referred to him as shitbag.
Oh, did she?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
boy.
I blame that on the booze. So anyways, they get married.
And he's worth a lot, clearly.
He's worth $6 million. And also he had like 6 other life insurance policies.
well-insured shitbag.
Yeah,
Right.
I know, it's terrible. So they're living Huntsville High Society, doctor's wife. According to his children, Jack's children, they said dad was quirky, like he would wear Christmas ties in the summertime.
That's a red flag right there.
Do you remember, well, I was going to ask you remember Richard Whitley?
Oh, right. Didn't he write Rock and Roll High School? Right.
Gideon and I worked with a writer who would wear, he was a comedy writer, and he wore fish ties to work.
Oh, the tie was in the shape of a fish?
Did
Yes.
Steve Martin wear a tie like that? Best Fishes, remember?
He probably did.
During the banjo
remember-
days?
I just remember when Richard showed up and he wore that tie. I was like, oh, he's a comedian because he's wearing a funny tie.
My dad had ugly ties, my late dad, but I think funny ties are a different thing.
My dad had a jury duty tie, which was naked ladies and crossbones. Like
Oh,
a
so
skull
he
and
would get out of
crossbones.
it.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it worked. He never did jury duty.
Oh, my God.
Funny.
So anyway, so he wore quirky ties and he also liked to eat peanut butter out of the jar.
Who doesn't do that?
I know. And it's just like, they was the only bad things that if they were,
That's what they could dig up.
exactly. That's, and which apparently annoyed Betty.
She was an alcoholic and went to AA meetings. Did he have substance abuse issues?
He didn't at all. Well,
No.
basically the problem was she was a doctor's wife and he was a doctor who said his first love were his patients. He's very dedicated. So she was a bit ignored.
Could he still perform his functions as a doctor while he had Crohn's disease? Or
Yes. I don't think that impacted at
Oh,
all.
wow.
He basically worked, and this is 1992, so pretty impressive that, he was able to work and live with this. And Betty said both of them agreed they had an open marriage, and he was fine with it. He said his first love is his patients, and whatever you need, hun.
And so the open marriage wasn't so much that they both were able to fool around. It was more like, I know you're not really into me sexually, so go do your thing.
Exactly. And I think that he was fine with it because I think he worked constantly. She did use drinking as a way to curb her social anxiety, and then she stopped drinking. She went to AA, but also that became a place for her to meet more men.
She did use it as a meeting place.
Of course. And, they had a big house. She wore furs and jewelry. She drove a Mercedes. She drove a BMW. It all looked great.
But the open marriage thing, I mean, people live the way they want to live, and I'm not going to make huge judgments, but it can open up the possibility of bigger problems, right?
I would imagine it would because it opens up a whole thing about trust.
Well, you can also fall for somebody else. It's supposed to be just about physical satisfaction, but you can't help but maybe fall for people that you're having those affairs with.
Of course.
And that could make things weird.
That's very hurtful.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who is in an open marriage. That wouldn't work for me. Even if it was a sexual thing, I don't think it would work for me.
I don't think there's any movies about an open marriage where things just go swimmingly for all 3 acts.
That would be a pretty boring movie.
So Betty's now in AA, but she used to describe her life. She said it was Bloody Mary brunches and martini lunches.
That's fun.
sounds like Sex and the City. Sounds
Well, it
fabulous.
reminds me of Betty Broderick a little bit.
Very
Nice
similar.
life.
And also the same sort of circumstances. Also married to a doctor, lived very, very well, and also didn't speak well of her husband. Around this time, so Betty's in AA, but this was sort of a telling thing that I came across. She had a friend named Brenda,
Yeah.
but Brenda's husband committed suicide. And Betty said, "Did you actually kill him?" And she
Oh,
said,
really?
"No, like what I thought." And, Brenda was shocked because Brenda later testified against her.
Okay. And she mentioned that story.
She
at
mentioned
the
that story. It
case?
was very peculiar. The first thing you ask is, did you kill him? He didn't kill
weird.
himself. And she said she wanted Jack to be killed.
But some people do just joke around like that. Doesn't necessarily mean she killed somebody.
Well, the other thing, too, is also, like, I have a very dark sense of humor.
Yeah,
Like,
you do.
I go really dark.
It is true that, gallows humor is kind of a part of one's makeup a lot of times.
There's always going to be a character assassination in this day and age with social media. Like, you have to be careful all the time. But anyway, so she did say to her friend she'd rather be a widow than a divorcee.
Betty said that?
Yes, Betty said that to her friend.
Oh.
So that kind of planted a seed.
That's interesting.
She'd rather be a widow than a divorcee because a divorcee
Wow.
is uncouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she might have been drunk when Brenda and she had this
Yeah,
exchange.
very
and She
likely.
was described as a mean drunk, but most of her anger when she was drinking was aimed at her husband. Like she
Yeah.
constantly
Well,
said
that's more
bad
pertinent.
things.
Yeah, and that's like a in vino veritas kind
Exactly.
of situation.
But everybody complains about their wife when they
And
get
their
drunk.
husband.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes out. So anyway, she quits drinking in 1986.
Oh.
She attended AA meetings, and she apparently was a role model in the AA. Everyone loved her. Like, from what I gather from everything I've read, is that people enjoyed her, except when she was a mean
pretty,
drunk.
seems
Very
pretty. From the
social and
videos I
nice.
saw, she seems to be pretty, like,
She's lovely.
yeah, she seems like a funny, like, nice personality.
Yeah, and she did meet paramours she was still swinging.
Yeah.
And meeting men when she was sober. And Huntsville is a small town. It's a small southern town. And, there's kitchen bitches. And
Yeah.
everyone loves to talk about people. So people like to gossip about her about town. Meanwhile, her sister Peggy lives in Vincent, Alabama. Also married young and divorced her first husband, but then married a preacher. Married a minister, and she was part of the church choir.
Nice.
She also taught at schools. She was an elementary school teacher, sang in the choir, married to the minister. Everyone knows her about town. She's lovely. I mean, she did win beauty contests. So
Mhm.
she's like, a pillar of society, just a lovely Southern belle.
And she had a good relationship with him?
Very well, up until a certain point.
Okay.
So this is all pre-murder.
Oh, right.
She had 2 kids by her first marriage, and Wayne adopted them. And then
Oh,
they
nice.
had kids of their own. They had 2 children together. And Betty and Peggy hung out. They'd see each other. And Peggy loved visiting her sister Betty because her sister Betty had furs and jewelry and nice cars. And they went out to lunch, and it was a lovely lifestyle. And Betty was very generous with her sister.
Mm-hmm.
By 1991, Jack and Betty are sleeping in separate bedrooms.
Oh.
Word is that she still spoke badly about him.
Maybe he was a bad snorer.
They also were planning this trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Right.
They were going to go away. She didn't necessarily want to go,
Yeah.
so she wasn't excited about it, but they were still functioning as a couple. It could have been snoring. It could have been anything.
Yeah.
So that's the background of Betty
Okay.
and her sister. So now we're going to meet the hitman.
Well, we'll get back to the murder
Yes.
just because we talked about it a while ago. She comes home at a certain point and finds him dead.
Finds his dead
just
body.
As we mentioned earlier.
Runs to the neighbors. They all come.
The police are there. There's an investigation. And while the investigation is going, there's like a tip, right?
So this is what I was going to get into. I'm
Yeah.
going to introduce you to the man they hired, who was hired,
who's allegedly.
a hitman. His
Yeah.
name is James White. James was not a very bright guy. He had an 8th grade education.
It's better than a 6th grade education.
Exactly. But on top of that, he's not a very bright guy. He's also a drunk and a drug user. And he was discharged from Vietnam for attacking his own troops.
He's on many different substances, right?
Oh, he's on lithium
yeah.
to begin with.
Because I know when you're bipolar, you take a.
I think he was bipolar. I think it was something that was given to him through army doctors.
I see.
Because when you shoot at your own troops and you're discharged, they have to take some
Oh, boy.
responsibility.
And when I saw videos of this guy, James White, it reminded me of that guy from King of the Hill, that Mike Judge, and not to make fun of Southern accents, but there was one character. It's almost like he's speaking gibberish.
A different language,
Yes.
exactly.
It was kind of like, I'm talking about.
Yes, that's a perfect. That's
You're
exactly.
going up yonder, you're going up
That's
the hill,
exactly
up the
it.
street up a hill. Oh,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
Texas, but this guy did sound similar.
He was married 4 times, was
Oh,
also
really?
to me,
How-
which is
4 people wanted to marry him.
I know, that's what I was going to
Well,
say.
But I did for a job once. I had to go on a Christian dating website, and I went as a man who was unemployed. I said I had 4 children. I was divorced, and I was 5'3". And
This was for a show?
for
You
a show, I did the
okay.
research, and I actually got hits. I got response. I was like, who wants to marry this guy?
Well, everybody has their taste. Different.
Unemployed, short. He's had 4 failed marriages, and he has 4 kids.
So all these characters have kids from previous marriages.
It was 1992. Everyone was having kids as soon as they could have them.
And did they find out about James from the tip?
James knows Peggy, Betty's sister, locally, because he's a handyman at the church.
Do you want a guy like this in your church in elementary school? Who is doing the hiring here?
I mean, churches a lot of times are about like second chances, and
True.
redemption.
No,
and,
fair.
And it's a community, and everyone's welcome in the community in the church.
Right.
So anyway, he was a local handyman, and
maybe he was a great handyman.
apparently he was very good because Betty was visiting Peggy. Peggy's daughter was in a school play, and she marveled at the handiwork of some bookshelves. And she said, by the way, that was done by James White. And she's like, well, I wanted to redo my screen doors in my house, which is 3 hours away. But yeah, and she said, he's also a recovering alcoholic. So she thought, maybe you should hire him to do some work around your house. So that's how the sisters knew James.
Right. So Peggy was the one who really
she
knew
was
him
the
first.
conduit, yes. And he needs money, and he's a good guy. He's a Christian,
They
whatever.
wanted to help him out.
Exactly. They felt sorry for him. But as you said, later his defense attorney described him as a rapist, a child molester, a thief, a drug addict, all these things. So I don't know why you'd want him in your house if this was his reputation.
And that's the defense attorney talking about saying that?
Was it the
Betty's defense?
Betty's
defense attorney, not his defense. So James apparently was in a bar before the murder, and he was bragging to people that he'd just gotten paid. He said, I'm going down to Huntsville, and I'm going to kill someone.
Whoa.
This woman named Peggy told me to go kill someone.
He said her name in it?
It's a Coen Brothers movie.
I think that you're right on with the Coen
Well,
brothers.
we have to make the movie. Screw the Coen brothers.
Yeah, screw the
Who's
Coen
playing
brothers.
James?
You know who I think would be great would be Josh Brolin.
Oh, he would be.
Because he's fun when he plays an idiot.
I bet Gary Oldman could pull it off as an
Gary
American.
Oldman. Yes.
Wow.
So anyway, whoever he says this to in the bar calls it into the cops and just say, by the way, I was at a bar last night and this guy said he's hired to kill someone in Huntsville.
A doctor. He said, I
kill a doctor
kill
in
a
Huntsville.
doctor.
Exactly. So someone called it in.
And that was after the crime.
This was before the crime. They followed up on this tip after the murder happened, and they realized that Peggy, who we referred to, was born on the same day as Betty. And they connected it. They're like, they're twin sisters.
Okay.
So that's how it all came down, was like this tip in the bar.
Got it.
Right? But they didn't actually think about it until after the murder was committed. They were like, we got to call in about this, right?
Yeah.
So James is going to meet Betty. Betty hires him to go build shelves in her house, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't show up. She's pissed off. He was also supposed to meet Betty at an AA meeting, too.
Oh, right.
And he doesn't show up for either one of those things. So Betty's just like, fuck that. I'm not giving this guy another chance. Then Peggy, says, he's suicidal right now. Like, he's sorry he missed the job. Would you hire him back?
Do you think Peggy liked this guy? And
here's the thing. Peggy is squeaky clean in all of this.
Yeah, well, we think.
Apparently, James had a thing for Peggy and claims that they had a sexual relationship. It's never been confirmed. So he doesn't show up the first time to work for them. That's what Betty says. She goes, the last time I talked to him, he didn't show up the second time. He called the house when I was at Peggy's house, and I got on the phone and I gave him a talking to. And I just said, no, you're not working for me. So that's what she says. Her relationship with him terminated there.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's a lot that ties her to James.
And this all came out when the police interviewed James, right?
They arrested James on May 27th, 5 days after the murder. They arrested James.
And they arrested the sisters?
The sisters were at a memorial service while James was already arrested, and he confessed the whole thing.
He talks and talks. There's all this stuff. There's crazy stuff that people saw and know about him. Like,
He's a terrible hitman.
He goes to scope the house where the doctor and Betty live. And he decides, I'm going to pretend to be a jogger.
And he wore jeans.
That's amazing.
It is a Coen Brothers because this is the stupidest hitman in the world.
I love the fact that he's like, okay, I'm going to go act like a jogger to be low profile.
And I'll jog in jeans.
So I'm just going to put on jeans and then run around.
I don't even know if he had running.
And someone saw him running in jeans and was like, that looks ridiculous.
And it's also an exclusive area of Huntsville, a very fancy area. So people
don't
know.
Wear jeans.
Yeah.
At one point, he meets up with Betty at a Chick-fil-A. The people at Chick-fil-A remembered him. Well, here's the deal. According to James, Peggy said, if you can kill off my sister's husband, he's a miserable, abusive doctor. Like she paints this picture of Betty being this victim.
This is according to James.
According to James. And she said, and we'll pay you $5,000. He's like, cool. He needs the money. So initially they give him half of it up front, $2,500. Betty gives to him and he spends it immediately. and spends it on his children, which was interesting to me, which was nice. So he basically used up the $2,500, and then they said, we'll give you the other $2,500 when the job is done. So meanwhile, he's spent all his money. He's like, but I need a hotel room in Huntsville, to be there, like to scout it out and stuff. So,
well, those are expenses.
I know. It's
Did
not
he get a per diem?
Yeah, it's James Rockford, $50 a day plus expenses, right?
They're making a new Rockford Files, by the way.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I saw that. I love that show. Also taught my brother-in-law how to speak English. He's Dutch by watching the Rockford Files. Anyway, he spends his money almost immediately. Then he's kind of having reservations, and Peggy's like, then you have to pay back the money if you're not going to do it. So he's kind of forced into doing this, right? So at one point, he goes down to Huntsville. He's supposed to meet Betty at her AA meeting.
Yeah.
And she's going to hand him a book that has money in it of $100, a book that she got out of the library with her name in it.
And it has money in it.
It has money in it. But when he gets to the AA meeting, they won't let him in. So he actually asked a guard to get her to bring him. So
these are all witnesses.
He's just drawing it.
He gets a hotel, and everyone at the hotel remembers him.
Oh, boy.
The people he went to a Kmart to buy clothes and a travel kit, they remembered him there. There's receipts from all this stuff.
This guy really makes an impression.
He makes like 80 bad decisions an hour.
But the other thing, too, is it's like kind of us like, tell me something more stupid. And you're like, I've got it coming. The other thing is Betty herself is also not. So meanwhile, before the night of the murder, she goes to the mall to go shopping for her trip, and she buys a pair of floral patterned sneakers.
Oh, right.
She bought them at the mall, and she wore them to the AA meeting. Everyone in the AA meeting was like, remembers her floral patterned sneakers.
This is like Magnum PI with the Ferrari. It's
Exactly.
like, what are you doing, dude?
But that was an interesting thing because later James remembers the shoes. So when Betty says, I didn't do this crime, it is a little weird that he remembers the exact shoes she wore.
Not only does he remember the people that sold them to her, remember, and also the people at the AA meeting remember. And as a woman reading this, I'm like, who the fuck buys floral patterned shoes? It's just a bad decision. And so the night of the murder, Betty picked him up in a mall parking lot at his truck, and he hid on the floor. Why at this point? He's so, he hid on the floorboards of her car, and he remembers those floral patterned shoes because that's all he could see.
Yeah.
So her shoes connect her to everything.
Also, wasn't there a gun, even though a gun wasn't used?
Betty also bought a gun, a .38
Allegedly.
special, registered in her name, and she gave it to him, but he didn't want to use it.
He was afraid it was going to make too much noise.
Yeah, exactly.
That's smart.
Yeah, that wasn't dumb.
And so he had reservations about the gun. He's like, I'm not going to use a gun. So he hid it in the floorboards of a house that was on the property where his trailer was.
And that stayed there. Did he even bring it? He
Never
didn't even
brought
bring it.
But they did recover it. And it's registered to Betty.
So he ends up in the house of the doctor, and I know he drank a case of beer. He drank.
Wait, hold on.
18.
He drank 18 beers.
Poor James.
Pearl Light.
To calm his nerves, he drank 18 beers, but then he drank a ton of coffee.
Well, no, I heard that he took like 15 caffeine pills.
So it's like a redneck speedball.
He was like out of his brain. Like he's already addled as a human without any substances. He went there basically to possibly do the crime. And when Jack comes home, I think he literally did not remember why he was there.
He was in a blackout.
And they basically came face to face, and he was like, what the?
Jack had just pounded that campaign poster onto his lawn. He had the baseball bat in his hand, and they came to blows.
And then James took the bat and started wailing away.
So Jack had the bat initially?
Yeah, he was using it as a hammer outside of the house to put a
also
sign.
Weird.
It gets even weirder, and that's why the story is so crazy, is because he was hammering a sign campaigning for a new DA.
Attorney, right.
That's why Betty couldn't be tried in Huntsville.
He also ended up winning, and he was friends with Jack. So he had to recuse himself.
Guys, I think we have I have a merch idea for this episode, and it's is it not Betty White? What's her name?
Betty Wilson. Betty White would be good, too.
We could do a Betty Wilson version of Clue.
Oh.
Because we have all kinds of murder weapons, all kinds of weird locations.
On the landing.
And we have those floral patterned shoes.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
So he kills Jack. And there's a stabbing, but they don't find that
And he doesn't
weapon.
remember if it was a knife from the kitchen or if he brought a knife.
He says he remembers. James says he remembers very little.
He said he was in a blackout.
I mean, the one thing that is clear, James admits to having done it, and he implicates the sisters, right?
Well, so after the murder happens, it happens on the 22nd of May. James is arrested on the 27th through all these sort of clues, and he immediately confesses to everything. But the sisters are meanwhile at the memorial service for
Jack.
They're at a memorial service. As soon as they leave, they're arrested. And they have no idea that James has been arrested, and they have no idea that he's confessed everything. They don't know anything. After the memorial service, they go back they're staying at one of their sister's house. Not Peggy's house, but and Betty goes to do laundry because she has no clean clothing because she's been there since the murder. And so when they're arrested, everyone's the cops, the media, all outside the house. And Peggy walks out wearing a dress. She's beautiful. Betty, meanwhile, she's taking time. They grab her. She's wearing a men's pajama top because that's what she was wearing, and she didn't have clean clothes. So she comes out looking like she just rolled out of bed.
And people are saying that didn't help her case.
Didn't help because she's wearing a men's pajama top.
She
looks like she came from sex.
What did they call it? A walk of shame.
It was definitely a walk of shame.
It appeared that way.
It's the perp walk is her walk of shame.
There is a lesson here of if you are arrested, whether you're guilty or not, these things matter. Now, those days, there weren't even cell phones.
No, and as Will said, hard copy was on every night. People were looking for true crime stuff. So people already in their heads, she's a slut, she's a boozer, and her rich husband is dead.
The court of public opinion.
A walk of shame, perp walk. It's like a fully packaged thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the remaining $2,500 that James was supposed to collect was supposed to be in Peggy's garage.
Okay.
Neighbors all saw James looming around her garage after the murder was committed to get the other. So there are footprints everywhere, or fingerprints everywhere. I mean, no one covered anything up.
And this came from him basically ratting them
everyone
out.
But
apparently there were a lot of inconsistencies in his testimony.
They said that he's actually up for parole this year.
Oh, crazy.
In March. And he's changed his story many times.
Yeah.
The reason why he confessed, they basically said, you all are going to get the electric chair. So basically, he confessed everything so he wouldn't get
the death. He wanted life in prison or whatever.
And all three of them apparently were up for the electric chair.
This was a capital crime.
Yeah, capital crime. So, and this is why the story gets so crazy. There's three stories we're hearing. We're hearing James's story, we're hearing Betty's story, and we're hearing Peggy's story. Yeah. So, James cut a deal, but he was a witness at Betty's trial. So he was on the stand. And his confessions changed over the years. In fact, I think in 1995, he retracted his whole confession again.
So pretty much all the things they accused the sisters of came from the testimony of this guy that's a terrible witness to some degree, at least unreliable.
Well, he was in a blackout the whole time, and he's been in and out of jails.
That's a hard thing for a DA when your number one witness is
Well, not only is he unreliable, but he's severely unreliable. He's the worst person. That's the thing that's so insane to me is that basically, Peggy approached him, according to him, and said, we want you to get this job done. Of all people to choose, she chose him.
Yeah. So Betty went on trial first, and am I right to think that she had the most motive, at least alleged motive, that she would inherit all this money, right?
Over $6 million, because he had a life insurance plan and he had all these other policies. He had a lot of money. She stood to get that. She was in a sexless, loveless marriage, per se. She said she never cheated on him emotionally.
Yeah.
But, she had a bad reputation about town. People spoke about her, and she was a talk of gossip always.
And all these people came on the stand for Betty's trial and were
they all testified against her.
She talked shit about her husband and was making fun of his colostomy bag. I think this is a good lesson in this case, too, of it's all fine and good to be sharp-tongued and everything. But then if you ever need people, you're on This Is Your Life or something, you're going to be in trouble. I remember when Elliot Spitzer was governor and had a sex scandal and nobody liked him. So nobody was there to defend him. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened to Betty.
It's the same way whenever you see Alec Baldwin in Page 6 in the Post, if he buys a pack of gum, it's sinister. You know what I mean? Spotted the bloviator buying a pack of Wrigley's gum.
The Post is looking to spin it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she was already condemned. Character assassination to begin with. So she's on the stand.
And what was her defense lawyer claiming?
That basically this was a random act of violence.
By the guy.
By James White. Yeah, it was just a random act of violence. He was a rich doctor. He came to rob. But the thing is, part of the deal was, according to James, that he was supposed to look like it was a botched robbery or something like that. But he was in a blackout, so he couldn't even do that.
Right.
Nothing was taken from the house. She had jewelry. She had furs. Nothing was taken.
And they had met each other, but none of that was illegal, right?
The two things that are unfortunate that connect her is the book, the library book that he had with her name in it. It was a book of poetry, apparently.
But it had money in it.
It had $100 in it. That was their way of passing it off. And also,
and literally her name in it.
It literally had
Oh my
checked out in her
God.
name. That's why it's so stupid.
Yeah, she wasn't.
I know.
that
it's
wasn't
kinda like,
smart on her.
I wish they would have talked to me first. I could have, given them
could have
some
made
clues.
a lot of money consulting.
Betty pulled the James on that one.
Exactly. And the other thing, too, is the gun is registered in her name. It wasn't used. It just looks bad.
And she's sleeping around, and I know there was a racial.
Well, the other thing, too, is, so
aspect,
number one, the other thing, too, is there was a DA election coming up. So the incumbent lost.
Yeah,
And the new guy who came in, her husband supported,
they were like friends.
They were
think.
friends,
So he had to recuse himself.
So they had to recuse him. And also they did a poll. 86% of the people that knew about it in Huntsville
it was a big deal.
said that she was guilty. So
Oh,
she
boy.
could not be tried in Huntsville. So they move her to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which is
Mhm.
the seat of the Ku Klux Klan.
And that's where Alabama plays their games. Roll Tide.
Yeah, exactly. Crimson Tide.
The people that were trying to smear her, the lawyers, the DA really, they were trying to paint her as like, I don't know, she had an affair, right, with a black guy, and they were trying to play the race card
Well,
there.
they basically, and this is a thing that's really interesting, is that being a woman who slept with a black man was even below being a black man. You know what I mean? In that community, which is a
yeah.
horrible thing to say and articulate. But the prosecuting attorneys, when she went to Tuscaloosa, they flew in. She had a paramour, this African-American guy. They flew him in and put him on the stand.
Oh, boy.
They flew him in from California. And he had nothing
Yeah.
to say, just like, yeah, we slept together. That's all that she did with him. But that was also planting a siege, So it was a kangaroo court. It was
Gross.
kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. So Betty's trial, they found her guilty, that she hired a man. She bedded murder.
They found her guilty.
They found her guilty. But then Peggy is also tried
afterwards.
separate trial. She's in Huntsville.
Different DA, I think.
Different DA. Also, they didn't allow the media in her trial at all. And also,
Or at least cameras.
they didn't have cameras there. And also, in order to attend the trial, it's a public trial, you had to get a ticket to get in. So her people were carefully chosen in the courtroom. The jury was all on her side. Same exact evidence, everything. She's scot-free.
I think after the trial, she said, I asked God to give me a great lawyer.
She said, I prayed to God to give me a great lawyer, and he did.
He was a bulldog, and he was smart, and there were a lot of interesting things. They kind of changed what might have happened. They kind of claimed there might have been two people involved.
Yes, they claimed that. The thing is that I think the crime scene was carelessly observed.
Yeah.
Because you have a body that's killed by stab wounds. There's no knife. There's a baseball bat he was supposedly bludgeoned with, but there's no blood spatter that reflects that. And then he's got this weird fishhook thing that they bring in this fireplace poker as a possible item.
Later, they might have found a knife. And he buried bloody clothes.
He did. He buried things in the woods, and they found that later on.
And there was an unused gun. Was that in the car or something? Where was the gun?
The gun was found on James's property.
Oh.
And I mean, the one thing that the lawyer of Peggy knew, too, was that she was kind of an unimpeachable type of personality. So everybody knows that jurors are supposed to only listen to the facts of the case and not judge it based on emotion, but it just doesn't happen. And you know that a certain percentage of jurors are like, I like this lady.
Which sister was the prom queen?
That's Peggy. So Peggy's has her trial. She gets off. She's
Church-going.
married to a minister, but after this trial, she divorces her husband and she ended up marrying a professor.
Right.
So I think this kind of broke up her own marriage.
A lot of stress.
When you think about it and looking at this case, and it's so ridiculous, the motives. We know James's motive. He needs money.
Yeah. And he also might have liked Peggy.
Exactly. So those are the two motives, money and he loves Peggy.
Right.
So Peggy, what's her motive? Betty could share a wealth with her.
Yeah. But she loves her sister.
Loves her sister, but her sister stands to inherit a lot of money.
It's not quite as strong as Betty, but there were a lot of people apparently that were saying like they're either both guilty or they're both innocent.
Peggy initiated it, right? Wasn't she the first
Well,
person?
that's what she said. She's the one that approached James and said, hey, my sister has an abusive husband. We need to get rid of him.
But that's according to James. But there were also claims that she might have said she has a horrible husband and told the story and didn't say go kill him. But he was like, I'm going to kill him because she'll sleep with me.
Yes. So Peggy gets off.
She's acquitted.
She's acquitted. Yes. A local news person said one is either walking around free and should not be, or one is sitting in prison and should be free herself.
Yeah.
So Peggy gets away, but people still think she apparently visits her sister in prison. Her sister's still in prison, and she prays for her daily.
And she's there now. They're all alive. James is still alive, right?
He's up for parole this year. And if you've seen, like, the other thing that kills me, if you saw him and you're like, he's king of the, I can't understand him. He's also not a looker. How did he have 4 wives? I don't understand.
Maybe something in the bedroom.
I don't know.
He's very good at handiwork. He probably
builds beautiful shelves.
Yeah, that could be an aphrodisiac.
Who knows?
Well, if we're assuming that they did, in fact, hire James, do you think, we'll start with Betty, is Betty bad?
The thing is, in exploring this, I had sympathy for Betty. I mean, like, she could be fun, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Well, because she was found guilty, you had sympathy, or just even apart from that?
Just reading her story and who she was.
She seemed like a free spirit and kind of a fun you'd want to talk to her at a party.
Yeah, I think she'd be. And I've also listened to some interviews, prison interviews. She's a fun Southern lady.
She'd probably be more fun to hang out at a party
than Peggy.
Peggy's probably kind of who wants to hear about choir practice. You want to talk to the woman who's like, I had a horrible day, you know?
I bought a pair of floor pattern shoes at the mall today. Can you believe it?
Bless your heart. I mean, we're not making fun of Southerners. It's colorful and it's fun.
I appreciate you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then like AA people generally have good stories.
Yeah.
I bet she was a fun time.
I'm surprised that some of the jurors didn't find her more relatable.
I think it was just such a circus, and it was already put in their heads. Like, she was already convicted before she was convicted.
I mean, there's obviously a bunch of interesting things that you guys uncovered about this, but one of them is the twins. I mean, it's almost like an experiment, like a scientific experiment.
Like a control experiment.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 twins, same crime, 2 different verdicts.
And I think there was a ton of evidence that felt damning that came out of the trial, but because it all came from this one really dopey guy, a lot of it probably should have been ignored. And if there was a good lawyer for Betty, they would have said that in the closing statement. I think there's a pretty high likelihood that something unsavory went on with this hitman. I find it a little unlikely that this guy that lived pretty far away happened to come, unless he just got the idea from talking to Peggy. But I do think there are almost too many coincidences to make the sisters completely innocent. So I would say they are bad. I think it doesn't necessarily mean they should be guilty. They probably should have been found innocent, both of them, even though they both probably were guilty. But I say they are probably bad, but they shouldn't be in jail, neither one.
Well, Betty's in jail for conspiring to commit murder, right?
Yeah.
But she has no parole.
Yeah, doesn't seem
but
fair.
But James, who cut a deal, he actually isn't up for parole. He actually did the murdering. The thing that I thought, like, stepping away from this all, was like, so you have Peggy. Peggy was the beauty queen and very pretty, got away with her looks, and she's the minister's wife and all that type of stuff. And I was kind of thinking, like, maybe she was the mastermind behind this. She walked away with it, but her sister's sitting in jail. Maybe they concocted it themselves, but both of them should be in jail, or both of them should not be in jail. It shouldn't be one and not the other. That's what's so interesting about this case. And then we get into the mindset about twins, and they think alike. They feel each other's pain and all that type of stuff. But Peggy's free and Betty's not, which that's not a good fate, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I would call her, I think Betty and Peggy planned this together. So both are bad.
What do you think, Gideon?
I agree. I tend to think they both did it. They shouldn't have been convicted, but I do think they probably have a lot of secrets we don't know about.
But I do think it was the court of public opinion that really put Betty away. She needed a good PR person.
It was a PR issue, yeah.
As Charles Graeber said on a few episodes ago, you want your heroes to feel heroic and your villains to feel villainous and your victims.
It's not that way.
It just doesn't. People are complicated no matter what.
Yeah. Well, Betty's still in jail, and she does talk and does interviews.
Well, I would love to hear her side of things.
I know. It's going to I have to do snail mail. I have to write to the prison to get her to talk.
Well, let's do it. We could do an episode about that.
I would love to. I have to get it in motion.
Okay.
Actor Sharon Gless is known for her Emmy Award-winning performances on shows like Cagney Lacey, and played such salacious characters on shows like Queer as Folk and Nip Tuck. She's also the author of the 2021 wildly fun memoir, Apparently There Were Complaints. But the role we are most interested in talking about right now is that of her playing Holly and Lily in the 1994 TV movie Separated by Murder, a story based on our real-life twins, Betty Wilson and Peggy Lowe.
Can you hear my voice, Sharon?
I can.
I'm in Brooklyn, so that's why I'm not in the studio. My name is Gideon. I'm the co-host.
Gideon, of course. Hi, Gideon.
Thank you so much, Amber. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Are we good?
That's great.
Okay. So, had you heard of this story of Betty Wilson and Peggy Lowe? You played their characters. They've changed the names to Holly and Lily for the movie. And
Right.
Were you familiar with this story before you got the script?
I was not until I received the script. And the script I received was really much more interesting than
Really?
the one we ended up being allowed to shoot. One twin was innocent and one was guilty. CBS was afraid of being sued if they indicated in any way that the innocent one, the church choir teacher, appeared culpable. But I had different feelings about it, and I hung out with the townspeople a lot.
Oh, interesting.
I did.
On location.
On location. I talked to one man who hid them out the day they were arrested. He protected both of them and had them hiding in his apartment.
Wow.
Both of them.
The interesting story, too, is that day they were hiding out and Betty had not brought clothes with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was trying to wash her clothes. And when they actually exited the house, there was the photographers there. So Betty's perp walk, she was wearing a rumpled man's pajama top, which did not help sell her innocence.
Oh.
And of course, Peggy was all prim, church-going looking, wearing a proper
Right.
dress. So
You telling me that story, it makes it even more interesting to me that things like that, it's the appearance. My grandmother always said it's the appearance, Sharon. But it's the appearance of how they looked. One was very, a swinger and out there, and the other one taught choir.
exactly.
But they handled the script and changed it. So it was very clear who was guilty and who was not. I sort of took exception to that.
Yeah.
And I tried to, just with the tone of my voice, with anything, because were they going to sue me? They just call
For
me a
your
bad
acting?
actress, But I tried to indicate that there was more there than we were
dialogue
allowed
was-
to
yeah,
tell.
Exactly.
One thing we didn't mention yet is that Sharon plays both twins.
Yes.
That is kind of amazing. So you had control over both performances.
Yes, I did. But I was cautioned and kept giving rewrites.
Hmm.
So occasionally, if I could get away with it, I would use a tone of voice, or very slight. I mean, they had this one just so, because she was sexually loose, so they had her represented like a hoe almost, and the other one taught choir. Well, come on, that's a bit of a cliche.
The next question I was going to get into is playing twins, which was kind of fun because they were so, it was a wig change,
Yes.
but also they were so different. And your character, Holly, who was the loose one, the way
Mhm.
she would talk, she was a former drinker, she was a good time
Right.
gal, and she had loose lips. And then suddenly you played Lily, the buttoned up sister, who
Right.
said, now, Holly, we can't talk that way. How fun was that?
Oh, it was very fun. That's the first and last time I've ever had a chance to play twins that I remember. Yeah, and they were very different.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also the height of like amazing TV movies, when they were
Yes.
like appointment TV.
Right.
And everyone could see their favorite primetime stars doing different roles.
I know.
So it was a really exciting and kind of an honor,
Well, it
I would
was.
imagine. Yeah.
It was. I mean, every time I'd step off stage, they'd change my fingernails, and and I had a double who looked like me from the side and the back, who could sometimes play opposite me.
That's so interesting too.
Right.
And you were delivering lines to the double a lot of the time.
Yes, I was delivering lines to the double.
Because now they have CGI to make these things work. But it was harder back then.
Yes, I could never cross a middle line. I could never move my hand across the table more than halfway because they were cutting everything in half. Everything was 50-50, and then they edited it together. But you could never cross that half mark.
Well, the movie is so much fun. We had a great
Thank
time.
you.
And I miss the shoulder pads and the wigs and the jewelry.
I
It
know.
was so
Isn't
fun.
it fun?
So this is a film about sisters, and you have siblings, brothers.
I have no sisters.
No sisters. So, was that a fun thing to do, to suddenly get in the head
It
of
was,
sisters?
especially playing a twin, because I've always believed that twins are especially close. There was one scene where the good twin talks to the bad twin in prison, and I thought it was a heartbreaking scene, and the good twin falls apart.
Yeah, that was a hard scene because basically her sister's saying, well, you're out there, but I'm in here, you
I know.
know? And so she really felt that pain. That was a very good scene. I rewatched it last night.
Well, I thought also because I've always wondered, was she innocent? The guilt that in my mind, the guilt that she must have been feeling.
Yeah.
And which sister did you relate to the most? Which one do you think was more like you, or were there aspects of both characters that kind of spoke? Because I know you were schooled by nuns, is that right?
Right.
So,
But I didn't relate to the sister who taught choir.
mhm.
I was taught by nuns, but I was kind of in trouble a lot, you know. So
Me too.
In fact, when I graduated from my 4 years in a boarding school, convent school, I told them I wanted to enter the order. Turned me down.
Really?
They turned me down. They said, Sharon, it's a wonderful calling, but in your particular case, go away to college for 1 year and come back and we'll talk. And I never saw her again. She knew.
Well, good for that. I mean, glad they recognized that. So I guess that could kind of lead us into questions about your career, like how you started. I know that you said you wanted to be an actress. How did that all begin?
It began when I was 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a boy in my class at my little Catholic parochial school named Billy Chapin. And I went to see a movie called A Kid from Left Field. And Billy was starring as the kid. And I thought, that's Billy. I could do that. Swear to God, at 6 years old. And then, of course, I buried that dream, but it stuck in the back of my head. And when I was around 24, I finally admitted again it's what I wanted. And I started studying, and within a year, I was signed to Universal Studios.
Wow. And I read that also that you started out in the industry as like a PA on set, and
I
you
did.
helped read lines with
I was the
actresses.
secretary behind the camera. Well, I had to read, that's right, with the girls who would come in to read for my boss, and my job was to read with them. And I gave them the best I could, and they got the job, of course. And I made out their paychecks, I made out mine, and I thought, I was better than she was. I don't know why I'm so afraid. And she got the job. And that's what made me stop being afraid of the competition.
Well, so that was a really useful way to get into it because you were sort of behind the scenes, a backdoor way, and you're like, I'm just as good, maybe even better. And
well, that was the fantasy that I was telling myself.
well, then we all need those sometimes, right? Because that's how we see our dreams through. If we always,
Right. I stopped being afraid.
That's so important in acting,
Oh, yes.
So how did you come upon Cagney and Lacey? That's one of your seminal roles, and you won 2 Emmys for it.
Yes. When you're under contract to Universal, you're not allowed to do a series for any other studio. But while I was at Universal, I got invited to play the TV movie Cagney and Lacey. And I turned it down because I had just played a cop for Universal with a male partner. And I just didn't want to go around packing a rod, That's how I saw it. Of course, as Barney, our producer, said, actors are not always the best judges of material. So I passed on it. Then it went to series.
Oh, okay.
After the movie. And I was asked to do it again. And I had to still stay at Universal and do a series replacing Lynn Redgrave.
Wow.
In a series called House Calls.
I remember that show.
That's right. Well, that starred Lynn for like 3 years. And then Wayne Rogers had her fired because she wanted to nurse her baby on the set.
Oh, my goodness.
Wayne Rogers.
Yeah.
He was on MASH at one point, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
No, I remember was it based on a movie with Walter Matthau originally?
Yes, and Glenda Jackson.
Glenda Jackson, that's why. I just
That's right.
remember
What a great actress.
I just remember those commercials when I was
It
little.
was wonderful. So I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Universal released me.
Okay.
Then Barney Rosenzweig kept saying, would you please come and play Cagney in the series? And my manager encouraged me. I said, but I want to be in movies. I don't want to do any more TV series because I've done a lot of them.
Yeah.
And she said, well, of course, Sweet Pea, that's what we all want. She was a little condescending, but she was wonderful. And she said, I just think you should talk to this man. So I met him at Musso and Frank's here in L.A. I didn't like him. I thought he was arrogant. He was always telling me how hard I'd have to work. Well, I'd done my own series before. I'd worked hard. But at the end of the lunch, my manager said, Sweet Pea, I really think we ought to think about this Cagney and Lacey thing. We should consider this. I said, well, I don't like the guy with the beard. She said, his name is Barney Rosenzweig. I said, whatever. I ended up marrying him.
That's what I was going to say. That's how the best relationships start. It's like Taming of the Shrew. I hate him.
Right.
And then the next, that's all you think about, you know? So
Exactly.
it was fortuitous.
It took a few years for us to, become friends. And he was a wonderful producer.
Oh, obviously. I mean, he had so many hits.
I mean, there are so many subjects that the show gets into, and it deals with such honesty. It was really amazing, like alcoholism and domestic abuse and attacks on abortion clinics.
Right.
I mean, do you think a show like that could get made today? It feels like people would be scared to do a show like Cagney and Lacey.
I don't know. We were thrown off the air 3 times.
Oh.
Wow.
2 women in a drama? No, we're not going to have any of that.
A drama with 2 female leads, especially cops.
Exactly. CBS hung in with us. They did, and changed the history of television for women.
Well, I think also Mariska Hargitay might give some thanks to you because she's still running around the streets of New York City, and she's my hero.
Mine too.
You know?
And there was another actress who played a cop, and she ran into me to a restaurant, and she came over and worshipped at the ground.
Oh.
And she said, "You paved the streets on which I walk."
That's a wonderful thing to hear.
Isn't that nice? I'm going, wow. Because oftentimes you think, yes, we laid the groundwork, but sometimes you feel like you're forgotten after a while. But
Of course.
So it's so nice to be reminded that we still had impact.
Of course you did. How physical was the role, by the way?
Well, we had stunt doubles.
Okay.
I did my own
You did
running.
have to run. Exactly.
Yeah, I did my
Yes.
own running, and so did
it's not a
Tyne,
desk
but
job.
I didn't do my own falling.
Good.
No.
Good for you.
I wanted to ask about, Sharon, do you know about the Bechdel test?
No.
It's this way of like measuring whether a fictional show has like 3-dimensional women characters. And if a show has more than one woman character and they speak to each other, not just about men, those shows pass the Bechdel test.
Oh, I didn't even know about those tests.
I think you've been on a lot of shows that pass that test with complicated women characters. Was that intentional?
That we passed that test?
That you choose projects with 3-dimensional women characters?
Yes, I believe that was Barney Rosenzweig's intention. Barney Rosenzweig and Barbara Corday, when they created the show. Yes, these were multi-dimensional characters. Totally different. They were not best friends. When Barney, he knew he wanted a show with 2 women. And then it was trying to find the arena. What do I make them? And he thought the cops would be good because their lives depended on each other.
Exactly.
And they were not best friends. They were partners, totally different.
Yeah.
Tyne Daly and I never had time to be friends when we were doing the show.
Because you were working all the time.
Worked 20, 22, 23, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then at the end of each day, we would meet in my trailer, because that's where the bar was, and we'd run all the lines for the next day. So we had it all ready. So we didn't have time to be pals. But now we're very close, and we see each other quite often.
People will be so delighted to know that.
Oh, yes.
Because that's your fantasy, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask one quick thing. I mean, just a little bit about getting pulled off the air.
Mm-hmm.
Like, were there angry letters or concrete things that got the show pulled?
No, I think it was 2 women. I think it was 2 women, and men ran the networks.
I see. There were some executives that didn't believe in you.
Right. But when we were, first time we were thrown off the air, Barney called me and said, "Have you gotten fan mail?" I said, "Yes." He said, "May I have someone come over and get it?" I said, "Sure." He called Tyne. "Have you gotten fan mail?" "Yes." "May I send someone over to get it?" And he answered every single letter. Barney did. He wrote a form letter. He apologized for it being a form letter, and he answered every single person. And he said, "You have the power
To keep this on the air.
to keep us on the air, to change this." So he said, "Don't write your network." He said, "Write your affiliate station." And maybe it was the New York Times or the LA Times.
Yeah.
And the letters started pouring into the network.
Wow.
The newspapers would put them in bags. The affiliate stations would put them in bags. And it was a great gimmick. And they all went to CBS, and CBS said, boy, we made a mistake.
Exactly. He was smart enough to start this grassroots campaign that he
Exactly.
knew, because the people who would be threatened were your female viewers who's like,
Exactly.
I look forward to this every week. I need this.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean? That's important.
Yes.
The other thing I was going to say was your character on Queer as Folk. I love that character.
Oh, me too. I went after that one.
Oh, so that was something you had to fight for.
Yes, I called up Showtime. Someone had sneaked me the script, and I fell in love with Debbie's role, and I called a friend of mine worked for the head of Showtime, and I said, I want the role of the mother.
This was Hal Sparks' character.
This is Hal Sparks' mother,
He was
right?
the main
waitress,
character, yeah.
The waitress. So the head of Showtime called me. He said, Sharon, I like this idea. I think you might add a little class to the project. And I said, Jerry, class is not what I had in mind. If you remember that character.
Yeah, she was a sassy gal who wore sort of like saucy T-shirts, and she was surrounded by a very active gay community with her son and his
all
friends.
The boys loved her.
To me, it's like that. I love that life. That sounds delightful.
It was so much fun. And I got to work with all of the boys whenever they had problems. It wasn't just my son that I got to work with. I got to work with all of them.
To be surrounded by all these handsome young men, and there's
I
no
know.
threat whatsoever, just nice to look at and
I
kind.
know.
And you also had a storyline with Rosie O'Donnell.
I did. Rosie came to play with us.
How was that?
Oh, such a treat. We became very close friends. I had not met her before, but I was besotted by her. So I went out to her trailer and welcomed her, and I was so nervous. Well, she was nervous too. I could see, she was shaking a little. And I thought, wow, this show means a lot to her. And we became lifelong friends to this day.
Oh, that's wonderful. You guys shared an on-screen kiss, correct?
We did.
That must have been new.
She sent me a photo of the freeze frame of the kiss in a frame. It was, I thought, the only way that Debbie could do it, because Debbie wasn't gay and Rosie's character was. And I said, so let's do this scene in a bar. So Debbie can be tossing back a few drinks, and she's just loose and leans in and takes the kiss, because not that I would have minded Debbie being gay, but she wasn't.
Yeah.
But I wanted her to be comfortable enough. So I asked them if they'd put it in a bar so she could be a little loosey-goosey.
That's the perfect setting. Many kisses have started in bars.
Oh, I'll bet they have.
Many relationships. Well, one of the other roles also that was kind of, I love the show Nip Tuck, which was also so interesting. You see the FX shows, Beauty, all that stuff now. But
I got nominated for that, too.
And your character she was very striking on that as well. Really interesting. She was an agent, but not really an agent, and a murderous one.
She was a fake. She wasn't an agent, but she was passing as an agent. She was stuffed bears. That's what she did for a living. She was stuffed teddy bears.
Exactly. She worked at a Build-A-Bear store or something like that.
She worked at a Build-A-Bear store, and sometimes she would stuff bears like people that she loved, and then she'd kill them.
Yeah. So did you base that character on any agents you've met over the years in Hollywood?
I did. No, I didn't. I just played it as they had written it. Ryan Murphy called me up and he said, have you ever seen Misery?
Oh.
And I said,
With
yes,
Kathy
I
Bates.
have. I said, in fact, I played Misery in the West End of London.
I read about that.
On stage. I created the role on stage.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So the germination of the character he wrote came from a performance you'd already done.
Right. And I got nominated
And
for
you
that.
did. And also Burn Notice was a huge, huge show
my
that you were
goodness.
on. And your final episode, you blew yourself up to save your sons.
I know.
No spoilers, Kathy.
The show ended in 2015.
Oh,
I guess people had time to watch it.
they've seen it, yeah.
And the Trials of Rosie O'Neill, right? That was huge. You got nominated for that as well.
I've been very fortunate.
Sharon, you've played a cop, you've played a public defender, and a convicted killer. So it's kind of like the Law and Order intro, right?
Something to offend everybody.
So let's talk about your book, your memoir called Apparently There Were Complaints. How'd you come up with the title?
Well, I was in Hazleton, alcohol rehab place. Christine Cagney was a famous alcoholic. And then I went into rehab.
Rehab yourself, yeah.
And the press made a huge thing out of it. In those days, it became a huge cause celeb. And when I got out of Hazleton, I was there 7 weeks. It's a 28-day program. I was there 7 weeks. I didn't
That's a long
do
time.
it easily. This friend stopped me and she said, you were in Hazleton? I said, yeah, I was. She said, why were you in Hazleton? And I said, apparently there were complaints. And Barney was standing next to me. I mean, I laughed when I said it because I thought that was funny. And he laughed too. And so when it came time for my book, I just thought I told every complaint about my entire life.
Yeah, it's such a great title. So I wanted
Thank
to hear
you.
that story.
Such a great title.
You've really done your homework. You're amazing.
This is what I like doing, is the
Well,
research.
you do it very well,
Kathy's a great producer.
I'll say.
I know in your childhood, you were able to kind of come in contact with some amazing Hollywood legends. Isn't that correct that you saw the 10 Commandments as a kid?
I did. I saw it in Cecil B. DeMille's home.
Oh, my God.
My grandfather was a famous show business attorney. There's a salad named after him at the Polo Lounge.
Oh, what's it called?
The McCarthy chop salad. And it's like almost one of the most famous salads in the world.
What's in it?
It's got all kinds of things in it. It has beets in it. I always say leave the beets out.
Ooh, I like beets.
But it's very, very finely chopped. Not only was he a famous lawyer, but he was a famous polo player. And he came into the Polo Lounge one day and he'd broken his jaw.
Oh, my goodness.
And he told them the salad he wanted, very finely chopped and everything he wanted in it, and it became famous. And now it's called the McCarthy chopped salad at the Polo Lounge.
Well, we're going to have to get one of those. That
Oh,
sounds
please.
wonderful. How fun.
And do you remember the 10 Commandments, or is it just a story people told you about?
I remember it pretty well. I don't think I was more than 6.
Wow.
I do remember. We sat at round tables in Mr. DeMille's living room and watched it.
That's amazing.
And he was Howard Hughes' attorney also.
Oh, well, then you have a wealth of stories, I'm
The
sure.
only thing I could ever get out of him about Howard Hughes, I said, what was Mr. Hughes like, Grandpa? And he said he was eccentric.
That's for sure.
And the last will that they found was in my grandfather's house, Howard Hughes' will.
Oh, wow.
And then they found it some gas station or someplace. Remember whatever that story is?
Oh, yeah.
Where they found it. But until that time, the one Grandpa had stood for a while.
Oh, that's so interesting. So when you were talking earlier, when you were saying to your manager, when the Cagney and Lacey, you're like, I want to do movies. Now look at all the opportunities that great actors have on television and streaming services.
They're all flying to TV.
And why not? It's the best writing there is.
I totally agree.
So I guess that's
a great
the
medium.
question, like, are you looking forward to anything next? Or what's next on your plate? Or what's happening?
No, I haven't worked in a while. And I don't know what I feel drawn to. I love to do, ever since I did my book, I narrated it and I got nominated by the Audie Awards for Best Narration by an Author.
Wow.
And then I just did another book that I narrated to much acclaim. And I love using my voice that way. I don't have to stay on a diet.
You can wear pajamas.
I don't have to look my best. And I know how to use my voice. So I don't pursue roles on television or in movies. Not that anybody's inviting me. But it's a strange time because I've been so fortunate and so successful, to have it just stop.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the landscape has changed. We're all feeling it, hence the rise of podcasts and whatnot, because Gideon and I come from television and Will does it at some point too.
Right.
But I mean, I think the great thing is to have audiobooks because, that seems like a nice little segue. And if a great part came up and someone had you in mind, I'm sure you'd love to do it.
Oh, I would, if I could. You know.
Well, you're not going to be running around in sneakers.
I can't run.
I can't do that either, so. And no one's offering me parts, so.
Right.
Less competition.
It would be great to see you as a cop again. I mean, I would love that.
Oh, I would too.
Well, Barney came up with an idea, actually.
Oh, what was that?
Well, I don't know if I can tell it.
That's okay. Whatever you think.
It's just between us. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You can tell us after if you want. But if there
All
is
right.
something coming up, I guarantee people, the world will be so excited.
Well, it isn't coming up yet. It's just an idea
All
he
right,
came
well,
up
then-
with.
Make it happen.
Really good. Sort of sad, but good.
Ooh.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon Gless,
This was
for joining
such a
us.
treat.
Such a treat.
You're
Well,
wonderful.
Hopefully we can talk to you again down the line.
Please
for
invite me. I'm
anything.
right down the street.
Well, Will and Amber can have you over for coffee.
I would love that. And I'll take you to the Polo Lounge.
I'm holding you to it.
Okay.
Well, I want to come to the Polo Lounge too, but
Okay, you can come.
We'll wait for Gideon to be in
I
town.
just have to fly to LA, but I think the salad will be worth it.
Where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
I just left there.
It's just a 4-hour flight, so I'm coming for the salad.
Yes, please do.
We'll save you a seat, Gid. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I've had such a good time.
Thank you again to the wonderful Sharon Gless for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about Betty Wilson, you can find that info in our show notes.
Thank you for listening to Bad Elizabeth. Please rate and review the show on places like Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
We are Bad Elizabeth Pod on Instagram and Substack.
Bad Elizabeth is recorded at Jet Road Studios. It is hosted by me, Gideon Evans.
And me, Kathy Egan-Taylor. It is produced and engineered by Will Beckton, and our executive producer is Amber Beckton.
Our theme music was composed by Alexis Cuadrado and Danny Gray.
Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.